Hello, welcome to Strange Times number 11. Here I am, sitting at my computer, pre-dawn, just before all the birds wake up and you get all of that noise. Hopefully you shouldn't hear it, but if you do, it's the beauty of nature. Today's Strange Times is going to be a little bit different. It's not about news, because I couldn't find anything interesting in the news. So I'm going to read out a couple of stories from a 14 magazine that I've got, focusing on strange animal behaviour. But before I do, I'll tell you this little story that happened to me a few weeks ago. I was out the front washing something off underneath the veranda, and there was this flock of noisy minor birds. I don't know if you guys know them, but they tend to flock in like groups of about 10 to 15, even 20. And sometimes they are like, they're all just chirping their heads off and they're loud as. And they were sort of right near me up in the trees and they were just going nuts. So I decided to squirt the hose at them and they all scattered. And then probably about a minute later, they all flocked back to me and they were sort of like sitting in the tree above me and on the roof, on the gutter, just right above me. And I was looking up and I saw one. He looked down at me and then he hopped across straight over the top of me, turned around, and I knew what was coming, so I took a step back under the veranda, and sure enough, a piece of bird shit dropped right where I was standing. That bastard, he knew exactly what he was doing. It was payback for the hose, I have no doubt. And so with that in mind, I'll share these stories. School for birds. One day in the early winter of 1998, I set off to work at around 6:30 a.m. It was just about daybreak as I approached my local private hospital in Harrow. Near the car park, around 30 magpies were gathered together under the streetlights. They seemed unconcerned at my close proximity as I stood still to observe. All of the birds were quiet, apart from an occasional clucking sound, which appeared to be coming from the senior magpie at some distance from the others. It seemed to be addressing the attentive and watching birds. I remember thinking the scene resembled a school assembly. As I had to be on duty, I couldn't stay to watch what happened next. See, these birds, they're smart. I think they're a lot smarter than what we think. I don't know if that's, the way he perceived it is what was happening, but it's still kind of cool, I reckon. I like the idea of it. This next one is, it's more, it's less, it's more, it's more, it's less, it's more. It's not so bizarre. It's, but it is kind of strange behavior for a bird, or for a bunch of birds. So let me just get it out there and I'll explain what I mean. So this one's called Magpie Menace. On 4th of October 1997, I was on board my boat, moored on a sharp bend midway between New Bradwell and Great Linford on the Grand Union Canal. Hearing a sharp squawk that I took to be an alarm call, I saw 3 moorhens running swiftly along the ground and making no attempt to get airborne. I then saw that they were being menaced by a crescent of about 20 magpies, each about 5 or 6 yards from its neighbour. They advanced at a steady pace so that the sweep extended the full width of the visible pasture. Despite the fact that the birds passed from view without a kill being observed, I have no doubt that the magpies were engaged in an organised hunt for live prey. That's unusual, isn't it? I don't know if this was unusual, but I have never heard of such conduct before. It is unusual, but my theory is that because they say that that birds are descendants from dinosaurs. They were just following ancient instinct in rounding up prey, and sort of gives the suggestion that perhaps that's the way dinosaurs hunted, or at least those types, the raptor types. So I thought that was pretty interesting, and maybe it's not even that uncommon. We just don't see it in suburbia. Now I got a couple of cat ones for you, for the cat lovers. I don't mind cats, they're alright, but I'm more of a dog person. So there's 3 stories here, and it's just under the title of Cat Conventions. I'll start with this one here. My half-Siamese cat fetched me from the house and took me down to the shrubbery at the bottom of the garden. There I found 5 other cats in a rough semicircle. She took position facing the other cats, and after a period of cat talk, where it was obvious I was being introduced, each cat took it in turn to caterwaul and receive response from each in turn. The vocal session lasted at least 4 or 5 minutes, after which the visiting cats dispersed, and I was taken back to the house. It was obviously some kind of ritual, and I was a privileged observer. I have discussed this event many times over the years, but never got any meaningful information. Yeah, kinda weird, I guess. I don't know if that's normal cat behaviour or not. Maybe you guys who own cats can sort of fill me in if that's something strange. These next 2 are pretty similar. That's why I like them, and they're kind of weird and kind of funny, in my opinion anyway. At the age of about 14, I was awakened in the small hours one morning by incessant noise from a number of cats nearby. Our back garden was enclosed by a high wall, and beyond one side was a road. The noise seemed to be coming from that direction, so I grabbed the top of the wall, hoisted my head above the brickwork, and peered into the road, which was lit with street lamps. I was astonished to see a large circle of cats surrounding 2 cats who appeared to be facing each other off. The proceedings appeared to be under the authority of a large ginger Tom sitting in the circle to one side of the other 2, overseeing the confrontation. At my appearance over the wall, all of the cats ran off, apart from the large ginger Tom, who looked at me for a few seconds, then slowly got up, very disdainfully turned his head away, and walked off slowly down the road with his tail erect. Sounded a bit pissed off, eh? You gotta watch those ginger Toms. They're mean. And here's one that's pretty similar. I'm a police officer, and routine night patrols are part of my regular duties. One quiet midweek night in early December 2009, my colleague and I were doing our usual local burglary prevention patrol. As we turned a corner into a well-known local estate at 2 a.m, my colleague braked sharply. In front of us was a big fat white cat, with patches of tabby in various places, facing a semicircle of smaller cats, all wearing collars. For a few seconds we just stared at him, then laughed, as the big moggy in the centre, who appeared to be holding court, was not sitting in a normal position like the others, but in a relaxed manner, almost on his tail, with his legs spread apart. We joked that all he needed was a hat and cane, and he would look like a pimp or a gangster. None of the cats moved or even turned except the big white cat, which stared at us, looking nonplussed, then opened his mouth. The engine noise didn't allow us to hear if he made any noise, but at that moment, all the other cats sauntered off in different directions. Mr. Big waited, then lazily got up and swaggered off into the night. The whole incident lasted approximately 10 to 15 seconds. Had we disturbed a cat underworld meeting? Has Mr. Big now put a contract out on us? I'll await the fishbone head on my doorstep. Mr. Big the Pimp. Yeah, to me those sort of descriptions of cat behaviour seems weird because cats generally can't stand each other. You know, dogs always hang out in packs, but you don't really hear about cats hanging out in packs like that. And it's weird how these creatures always seem to form a semicircle with one of the animals at the head, you know, like in charge. Anyway, it's probably natural. Obviously it is, it's just unusual. But that's all I got today. And so, until next time, my friends, have a good one. See ya.